Okay, we're back now with Bloomberg Government economist Chris Payne. And Chris, I left you with a question there regarding Tarullo and the U.S. Imposing additional capital requirements on U.S. banks on top of Basel III.
Yes, so Basel III changes the way we actually calculate capital, what goes in it, and it raises the limits, it raises the ratio for how much banks have to hold. And so for all banks, by 2019, they're going to have to hit this 7% target. But Tarullo and actually international regulators generally are saying that these really systemically important financial institutions might have to hold an additional 3%. Some people say it might only be 9 or 10% in total, but others say it could be more. So the major banks will have to hit this target, and of course that sets additional problems for them in doing that.
Chris, do the banks have any options here? Are they lobbying to somehow change this? I know we've talked a lot about DoddFrank. Connect the dots for us a little bit, and what opportunities do the banks have, perhaps, to have their voices heard?
Well, they, as you said, introducing this, that Jamie Dimon has made his, JP Morgan has made his voice heard, but banks don't really have a lot of legs to stand on. I mean, ultimately, people remember the excess risks they took, and I don't think a lot of people are going to have a great deal of sympathy for their complaints at the moment. Just on your question about Dodd-Frank, Dodd-Frank basically says we want there to be higher levels of capital at the banks. And like a lot of things in Dodd-Frank, there ain't a huge amount of details. But it says this is something we're going to do, and it says the regulators will look at it. The regulators have looked at it, and they basically said we're going to do not only what these Basel III rules require us to do, but perhaps more on top of it.
You know, Chris, very quickly, we only have about 10 seconds here, but I did look at some OECD studies that suggested there would be a real negative impact on annual GDP. Is that something you looked at with this study?
Well, a number of people have looked at it, and basically you're looking at about 0.5% perhaps off GDP growth over the next few years because of it. There are costs and benefits to regulation. You might have more stability. If you want more stability, you might have some economic costs as well. Some people think it's worth it.
Yep. No one ever likes paying the price, though, Chris, right?
That's right. That's right.
Appreciate your insight. Thanks for joining us today, Chris. That was Bloomberg Government economist Christopher Payne.